everyone, Zeddy here again today with another top 10 list. Our last one, we took a look at the top 10 sleeper cards of all time, and I thought, what better list to take a look at when we're looking at, like, sleeper cards? What are the cards that people overhyped the most, that were, oh, it's gonna break the game, it's gonna be unbelievably good, and then it turned out to not be that great? You know, who would make that mistake? Not this guy. Oh wait, I have a bunch on here that I overhyped. Anyways, let's take a look at what cards were reviewed that were rated super highly that just didn't end up making the cut. So let's get going. Number 10, I have a more recent card in Imprisoned Gennard. It's a 1 mana 2/2 imprisoned warrior minion, and it stays dormant for 2 turns, and when it awakens, you equip a fiery war axe, a 3/2 weapon. Everyone's like, oh, this card's going to be a staple in like every warrior deck. It's insane. You get a war axe on 3 plus a body. How is this not absolutely broken? I saw a lot of 5 stars, 4 stars, all of that. And personally, I didn't think it'd be that amazing. I thought it'd be good, but not that amazing. And it turned out to be not that amazing. It was like a staple in Pirate Warrior, and Pirate Warrior is like a tier 2 deck for a bit. Other than that, it really didn't see much standard play. It sees no wild play. And today, if you look at basically every tier 1, tier 2 warrior list, the card is nowhere to be found. It just turned out that you had Corsair Cash, you had that card was just so good that you just get those weapons instead. You don't need to get the high roll of drawing Imprisoned Gennard on 1, and just didn't really pan out. Not, again, this isn't exactly a bad card. It was just not good enough, and it's a very good arena card. It warped the warrior meta there very highly, but yeah, people are like, this is just going to be auto-included, and it turned out not to be so much. So, Imprisoned Gennard is kind of imprisoned still, and just doesn't see a heck of a lot of play. Number 9 is archspore Michifin. It's the new Prime Druid Legendary from Ashes of Outland, and it's a 3 mana 3/4 taunt. You shuffle a 10 mana 9/9 Prime with taunt into your deck, and then you get to summon either a 9/9 with rush or taunt, or if your quest is active, the 9/9 will have rush and taunt. And everyone's like, oh, it's a staple in Quest Druid, sorry. It's going to be incredibly good in that deck. It's going to see play. It's a 3 mana 3/4 taunt. Upside, why would you not play this? I rated it really highly. I thought the same thing. And then turned out Quest Druid sucks, and this card just doesn't fit into any archetype out there. It's incredibly slow, and the 10-minute play, yes, you get 2 big taunts, but it's just not impactful enough in such a hyper-aggressive meta we've been seeing for such a long time since Ashes has come out. And just, yeah, when's the last time you saw an archspore played on ladder? It just doesn't really come in, but people rated it quite highly, and just, it didn't quite pan out. Number 8, we have a Demon Hunter in a Hunter card. This is from the most recent expansion, and people lost their minds when they saw this revealed. It was Ace Hunter Cream. It's a 3 mana 2/4 legendary, and your characters are immune while attacking on your turn. And people are like, oh my god, another broken Demon Hunter card. This thing's insane. Like, you'll never lose the board. You win more, and everyone's like losing its Hunter Aces card. What are they doing? And I saw this and I'm like, this is not that good. These decks don't want to do this. It's like win more non-tempo. Hunter or Demon Hunter don't want to do this, and it turned out they don't want to do this. But people rated this so highly. I saw this on like GM's like top list cards. Everything. People were going crazy, and I've seen it played on ladder once, I think, so far. Like, it just doesn't make pretty much any of the Demon Hunter or Hunter lists that are like top tier. Not that there are really top tier Hunter lists right now. The card has not panned out whatsoever so far, and it's definitely turned out to be quite the overhyped Demon Hunter card. I guess that's the first one, because there hasn't really been a lot of Demon Hunter cards to overhype, and they were all broken. Hey, there's a first for everything. At number 7, we have Countess Ashmore. It's a neutral legendary. It's a 7 mana 6/6, and at a battle cry of draw a rush, lifesteal, and death rattle card from your deck. So a lot of people had immediate comparisons with this to Curator, which would draw a beast, a dragon, and a murloc from your deck. And that card was very powerful, saw a lot of play, and still sees fringe play in Wild today. And you look at Countess Ashmore, well, it has a very similar effect. It's got to see play, even the same mana cost. Doesn't have taunt, but it has better stats. Well, turns out the taunt is relevant, because you play this, you're not defending yourself whatsoever. And the second part was drawing a rush, lifesteal, and death rattle card from your deck just never really meshed with any top tier deck. I believe I remember seeing people trying to run it like Rogue, making it work there, but it just never panned out, and people were really high on it. mainly because they got caught up in the curator, that curator comparison, and yeah, just didn't really pan out whatsoever. I don't think I ever saw it in a tier 1, tier 2 deck, and just one of those cards that looks really powerful on paper that just never really made it work. But you never know. Maybe in Wild one day that combination will just be so good you have to run it. Number 6, we have a Priest Legendary Camellios. It's a 1-mana 1/1 dragon, and basically every turn it's in your hand, it'll transform into a copy of a card from your opponent's hand. People lost their crap over this card. They thought it was going to be so good. Not only were you getting information on your opponent's cards, but you also could steal something insane. And I remember, you can look back at my infamous Baku 1-star unplayable trash review. I reviewed Camellios, and I crapped on everybody overhyping this card, saying it was going to be complete garbage, that the information wouldn't matter, and the average card you're going to get is garbage, and it won't be playable, and then this card's just bad, and it's a terrible top deck. You know, it's exactly what happened. The card was unbelievably bad. Like, yeah, you got maybe value once in a while, you got information you didn't need, and yeah, just ended up being a really unbelievably bad card. To the point where it was never in any top tier deck, and if you ran it, you were just memeing or just trying to make a point about a card that just was super overhyped and definitely was not good enough to see play. Number 5, we have Dawn Honcho. You had the 3 chief leaders from Mean Streets. You had Aya, Blackpaw, which gave you Jades. You had Kazakis, which gave potions if you weren't running duplicates. And then you had Dawn Honcho, which was a tri-class card for Hunter, Warrior, and Paladin. And it was a 7-mana 5/6 Battlecry. Give a random minion in your hand +5/+5. And while Aya seemed really good, Kazakis seemed good. And I mean, it's a 7-mana 10/11. How could that be bad? But the thing is, you were playing a 7-mana 5/6, and then you were hand buffing a random minion in your hand, and it was just too slow. Really never saw play. Like, there have been plenty of hand buff decks that have become viable that ended up being good, but Dawn Honcho is just incredibly slow, and that 1+5/+5 bomb is just not worth it. And people were rightfully so thought the card would be really powerful. It seemed powerful on paper, and I think even Trump gave it like 5 stars if you look back in the day, but yeah, never panned out, never saw play in a top tier deck, and was the only, like chief, tribe, whatever leader of the Mean Streets days that just didn't really see any play. At number 4, we had the Marsh Queen, the original Hunter quest. It was built around having to play 7 1-cost minions, and your reward was Queen Carnassa, which is a 5-mana 8/8 beast, which shuffled 15 raptors into your deck, and those raptors were 1-mana 3/2 raptors that Battlecry draw a card. This card was so overhyped, it was ridiculous. Life Coach basically stated that this was going to kill the game, that you can't give Hunter this type of value and draw, and has been memed about. That's one of the reasons he quit playing Hearthstone. Trump infamously gave it 5 stars, and like all the supporting cards around it, an unbelievably strong rating, and it was just like, on paper, it seemed really good. You just play a couple 1-drops. They made it very easy with the 1-drops they made, and then you just play this giant bomb, and then you just draw and draw and draw, and you could play like Tundra Rhino and draw and give them charge and do all the stupid stuff, and it just didn't work at all. It was bad. It was terrible. It's like the Hunter quest never worked out. It's never worked out, despite how many 1-drops have been made, how many different things have been introduced to the game that you can do in Wild. It's just never been good enough, and it just, Hunter doesn't care about value, doesn't care about fatigue, and the tempo of 1-mana 3/2 draw a card just at that point in the game just doesn't matter, and never did, and yeah, just never lived up to the hype. And I even have this guy Golden still. Maybe one day he'll live up to the hype and be that insane meta-breaking card, I guess, in Wild. But yeah, the Marsh Queen, Life Coach, come back. It wasn't that good. Yeah, you're doing fine. Number 3, we have another very recent card, one which I overrated and many did, and that's Glide, another overrated Demon Hunter card. It's a 4-mana spell for Demon Hunter, and it reads, shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 4 cards, and outcast your opponent does the same. So yeah, this card, I mean, the effect is super insane. You would think, like, it's 4-mana draw 4, and you get your opponent to screw up their hand. It's interesting to me. Everyone saw Voracious Reader, and like, the card's busted. It's 2-mana Jeeves, crazy. And didn't really put together that, why do you want to run 4-mana draw 4 in Demon Hunter when you can just run Voracious Reader and draw 3 and not have to have this outcast to be effective? Because if it's not outcast, you're effectively drawing like 1, 2, or 0 cards, right? Because you know, it shuffles and all that, and it also can be very clunky in the mirror, as people, or the aggro mirror, as people mention. And yeah, you just play Voracious Reader and you play a Skull still, and that's good enough. And this card just has not seen play, and a lot of people rated it as like game breaking or meta breaking, myself included, and it just hasn't come into fruition. Although there's always the possibility it can. I might look back at this video someday and be like, oh, it wasn't overhyped, it was completely busted, and the effect was as cancerous as I thought it would be. But for now, it seems to be very overhyped and definitely not living up to the potential that we saw. But yeah, this one is still yet to be determined for sure. The next two, I don't think so. Number 2, we have Maiev. It's a neutral legendary from Ashes of Outland. It's a 4-mana 4/3, and you basically can target a minion and make it dormant for 2 turns. And everyone saw this and just immediately like, oh, 5 stars, broken. Like, it's like Spellbreaker, but better, because you just remove the minion plain off the board. And it's going to be an auto-include in so many aggressive tempo decks, and just didn't happen. Like, the dormant effect, making it dormant, not removing it, just wasn't enough. And, like, the minions don't lose their buffs, don't lose their enchantments, so when they come back, you got to deal with it unless you kill them. And a lot of the times you haven't killed them, and there's just better tempo options, like the Shadow Weaver, the freeze card just turned out to be a lot better. It was a 3-mana 4/3, and you just basically make a minion dormant by freezing it, and you just do that. You don't get it for 2 turns, but it's cheaper and, you know, better tempo. And that's what we were talking about, Maiev, is the tempo of it. Well, there's just better tempo options than there have been. And yeah, it's one of the more interesting cards where everyone's like, it's going to be completely busted, it's going to be auto-include, and you just don't ever see it. And it's kind of crazy to me how wrong so many of us were. And now the number 1 most overhyped card of all time is like the OG overhyped card ever. Number 1 is Trogzor from GVG. We mentioned it in my sleeper card video, and Chalky, I'm gonna throw him under the bus again. He was hyping this card up like crazy. It's so busted. It's a 7-mana 6/6 neutral legendary, and whenever your opponent casts a spell, summon a Burly Rock Draw, and that was a 4-mana 3/5. And then whenever that guy, whenever a spell was cast, he gets +2 attacks. It'd be like a snowball thing. How do you remove Trogzor? It's just unremovable. It's just, you cast spells and, oh, it's a 7-mana 6/6 and it dies to most things, and like it's only good against slow decks, and even they can usually find a way to deal with it, and it's bad. It was really bad. It was like really, really bad. I've never seen a constructed deck. Even in Arena, it felt like a bad pick, because it was fragile enough that it would die to a lot of stuff. 7-mana do nothing was bad, whereas Dr. Boom was 7-mana get Boombots, which they do things, and just never panned out. He was just not the auto-include busted legendary that everybody thought it was going to be. And yeah, Trogzor is still a meme today for that very reason. But hey, at least he may have been an overhyped card, but he still lives in infamy as just one of the best memes in Hearthstone history. So let me know in the comments below, are there any overhyped cards I missed? Am I wrong about some of these? Were they as good as people thought they would be, or maybe they weren't overhyped? Anyways, let me know in the comments below. Always interesting to read. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.